This is the very first time I've ever made a video off of the TV, and I've got my tripod set up here. But I think this is utterly freaking amazing. I just want you to understand one thing when you watch this video. The NDA 2012, the Patriot Act, NSA collecting all these records on all these Americans and all this kind of stuff. All these things to try to stop terrorism. It's all a bunch of caca. Because here they are saying all of this is to stop terrorists and terrorism, and you have to hear about breaking tonight. This is the Megyn Kelly on the Kelly File on Fox News. This is freaking amazing. I'm going to pause some of this and cut some of this out to make the video a little bit shorter, because some of it is just huge impact, but the other is just kind of beating a dead dog that everybody should have heard about already, and this is about the San Bernardino killer. They let her in on a K-1 visa, and she had already been radicalized before she got here. But it's the breadth and the volume of these problems that to me is totally amazing. So here we roll.
Breaking tonight, just 2 weeks after a deadly terror attack on American soil, a bombshell hearing on Capitol Hill raises serious questions about how the Department of Homeland Security is or is not keeping track of potential terrorists right here within our borders. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Earlier today, the House Oversight Committee held a very charged hearing on terrorist travel, confronting officials from the State Department and the Homeland Security Department about those in this country overstaying their visas and illegal immigration in general. What we found out is concerning at best. Since 2001, the United States has revoked some 9,500 visas over terrorist concerns.
You have to understand what she just said. Since 2001, this is after 9/11, the United States has revoked or taken away visas from 9,500 people they suspect to be terrorists. Later, you're going to hear they're all still in this country.
Where those 9,500 people are, the feds did not have an answer. Lawmakers also pressed officials on why the social media accounts of those who want to enter this country are not routinely vetted, including the public social media of these people. Remember, Bernardino made her radical views known, but in fairness to the administration, she did post under a pseudonym and kept her account private. Still, it begs the question, how many others could have been stopped by a simple look at their Facebook or Twitter or by Googling them?
This is actually the part that I'm going to cut out, because you should have heard all this 100 times already.
Learned about a number of investigations into Syrians who have overstayed their visas here in the U.S. All of this did not sit well with lawmakers today. Watch.
You have no idea how many of those people are in the United States. Of the revoked visas, do you give those to the Department of Homeland Security?
Exactly. We revoked the visa, and the information is...
So Homeland Security, how many revoked visas are still in the United States of America?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have that.
You don't have a clue, do you?
You can see why we're scared to death that this administration, the Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, is not protecting the American people.
9,500 terrorists, suspected terrorists who they've taken the time to revoke their visas are still in this country. Now, that's not the total numbers. The total numbers will really blow you away.
And there was much more. Chief Intelligence...
This is the part that I'm going to cut out. Let me pause the recording for just a second. Okay, here we go again.
That is not all. In a heated exchange today, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz also accused the Department of Homeland Security of allowing violent criminals to remain in the United States. Trace Gallagher has that part of the story from our West Coast newsroom. Trace?
Megyn, at today's congressional hearing, the Department of Homeland Security acknowledged there are tens of thousands of people in this country illegally who have been convicted of crimes and could have been deported, but were not. Most of the crimes they committed were minor. Many were also felonies. The way it works is DHS focuses on three priority groups. Priority Group 1 includes...
Priority Group 1, engaged in or suspected of terrorism, convicted of felonies, people who have already been convicted of felonies, and those suspected of terrorism. 9,500 of these people are still in the United States. This is our top priority group here.
Illegals engaged in or suspected of terrorism or those convicted of felonies. Priority Group 2 includes those convicted.
Priority Group 2, these are sexual abusers, use of firearms, and drug distribution or trafficking. These are convicted offenders, convicted sexual offenders, convicted firearm abusers, and convicted drug traffickers and distribution people. This is their second priority, just under their priority 1 group.
Of things like sexual abuse, use of a firearm, drug distribution, or trafficking. And Group 3 are those who have been issued deportation notices.
Now, this is the lowest priority group, Group 3. These are people who have been enough of a problem that their visas have been revoked and they've been ordered to deport from the United States. Issued deportation notices already. This is the lowest priority group.
Of what priority level illegal immigrants fall into, DHS allows immigration agents to use prosecutorial discretion to either arrest them or let them go. That discretion is a point of contention with the chair of the House Oversight Reform Committee. Listen.
And then Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Homeland Security, puts out guidance and say, even if you commit sex crimes, even if you do certain other crimes, don't necessarily need to deport them. They're here illegally, they commit a crime, and Homeland Security is saying, use discretion.
In my opinion, all of those crimes in 1, 2, and 3 is a result of the crimes. Any of those should be deported. Now, who in the world in administration would say, you don't have to deport these people while they're locking up American citizens and putting them in jail? Doesn't make any sense to me. Does it to you? This has nothing to do. All this Homeland Security, they send them all home. They're not doing their job. And all this NDA 2012 and the Patriot Act and all this NSA and all this intrusion into your privacy to try to identify these kind of people with these problems. But once they identify them, they do nothing with them. Now do you kind of understand that that's all a bunch of hogwash? It's just to be able to track you as an individual and to be able to hold you responsible for being, you ought to look up NDA 2012 on YouTube. NDA 2012 and look for Rand Paul, where he's standing up on the floor of Congress describing what is a terrorist. And they're not terrorists. They're people like you and I that have more than a week of food in our house. People that put store their ammunition in weatherproof locations, like in your house. You should really go out there and do some research. Wake up, America, for crying out loud.
DHS strongly disputes Congressman Chaffetz's characterization that illegal immigrants who commit rape are being allowed to roam free. But according to the DHS Inspector General, it's difficult to know exactly who's roaming free because the feds have not kept track of the number of times they have used prosecutorial discretion. In other words, DHS can provide data on the number of people detained or deported, but there is no data on how many were released. Megan.
Trace, thank you. As you've been seeing, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz was incensed over the idea that criminals, including those guilty of sexual assault, apparently are not a top deportation priority for this administration. Here's just a little more of the tense showdown between Congressman Chaffetz and officials from Homeland Security.
Do you think that's terrorism if a woman's raped? Do you, Mr. Burson?
Do I think that is terrorism?
Yeah.
No, but it's an egregious, horrible crime, which is the father of
I tell you what,
I think is a horrible
It
crime.
is for that woman. It is for that family. And you don't deport them. How do you do that? You give them an excuse to make a decision.
If I may, if a woman is raped and the perpetrator is convicted of rape, that is a felony. That is a serious crime. That is a top priority for removal. So
no, it's not. It is not the top priority.
Can you relate to why Jason Chaffetz thinks it's not a top priority? If they still have 9,500 terrorists, suspected terrorists, on their top number one priority to get deported, then whatever makes you think they're going to get through number one priority to get to number two priority, which would be the sexual offenders? I think he's spot on.
Mark Thiessen is a Fox News contributor and former chief speechwriter for President George.
This kind of is a summary of the whole deal. Just try to pay attention, pause this if it's going too fast. You guys got to get this shit. You liberals out there who are supporting this administration and people like people in this administration, this is for you. Pay attention.
Mark, so what we're learning is we have identified people who have overstayed their visas. We think they might be terrorists or tied to terrorists. We have no idea where they are. And we have identified a bunch of criminals in the country who have committed major crimes, including sexual assault, and they're allowed to stay too, and we may or may not know where they are.
It's amazing. Our system is just so badly broken. The Obama administration wants to let in 10,000 Syrian refugees, but they have lost track of 10,000, almost 10,000 suspected terrorists that they granted visas to enter the United States with. I mean,
this is going to be amazing. Remember that number, 9,500 people that they let into the country and then determined that they had terrorist ties and shouldn't be here and are still here. Wait till you hear some more numbers related to that.
First, 9,500 people penetrated our defenses, beat our screening system, and actually got visas to legally enter the United States who have ties to terrorism.
Post 9/11.
Post 9/11. I mean, this is since 2001. Second of all, the officials, when they caught their mistake, when they didn't revoke their visas, they lost track of them. We don't know where they are. We don't know if they're in the United States. And then third, those 9,500 are the ones we know about. How many people are there out there who we don't know about, who they didn't catch their mistake and revoke the visas? I can name one, Tafshin Malik.
If you're not familiar with that name, that's the lady of the husband, the Muslims that were over there in San Bernardino, California, that they say is the second worst attack since 9/11 just recently in early December, late November, I can't remember, 2 weeks ago, yeah. That'd be right there close to that.
She never had her visa revoked. We didn't figure out that she was a terrorist until she killed 14 people. So this system is fundamentally broken, and it's no wonder the American people don't trust them.
And you know what? In some of these cases, it appears a simple Google search might provide them with the information they're looking for. I mean, maybe they should make the list of 9,500 public, and we could just put some citizen sleuths on it, and I bet you we'd find most of them.
They do a better job than the State Department. I mean, here's a stunning statistic that puts that 9,500 into perspective. Justin Lang is a researcher at the American Enterprise Institute. He went and looked at the State Department visa figures, and according to the State Department's own visa office, since 2001, they have denied visas to a net 2,231 people for ties to terrorist activities or terrorist organizations. 2,231. We have allowed in 9,500 people who now we later figured out were tied to terror. That means our system is so broken, we're letting in 4 times as many people as we block to keep out. I mean, that's just, it's so fundamentally broken. That, I mean, if an NHL goalie let in 4 times more goals than he stopped, he'd be fired. But the State Department consular people never get fired.
And what they're saying is, well, we prioritize deporting those illegal immigrants who are engaged in terrorism. Well, you may prioritize it, but I got almost 10,000 loose right now who you didn't prioritize. But they say the second tier of priorities are those who commit crimes like sexual assault, burglary, DUI. That's in the second tier. But if you can't even get the terrorists in the first tier, what does that say about all the people who committed second tier crimes? That's what Chaffetz was going for in his second diatribe we saw there.
Absolutely, and that's the amazing thing. I mean, in the last 2 years, the Obama administration has released 66,000 criminal aliens into our communities.
66,000 criminal aliens, illegal aliens in our community.
Convicted of crimes like rape, murder, kidnapping.
They're not supposed to release felons, convicted felons. That's why he was taking issue with the word rape. Convicted rapists are supposed to go.
They're not people we lost track of. They're people they had in their custody, and they released them. I mean, this is just so fundamentally messed up. It's amazing how anyone trusts this screening system.
And many do not. Mark, good to see you.
Thanks, Megan.
Well, we are learning to
All right. Jesus Christ, if you didn't hear enough just then, and you saw him on the floor of Congress standing there arguing about this, you know damn good and well those conversations took place. This administration is amazing. And the Democrats and Republican lawmakers out there are not filing for an impeachment on this rascal in the White House. To me, that should let people know the Democrats and the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, are all in this thing together. There's no difference in either one of them. The only difference is who they're taking money from, and that's the establishment Republicans, the new group of Republicans in there that were part of the Tea Party and all the rest of them. They're the ones out there that are trying to do some good, and they're having to fight the establishment. That's why you see they just approved the omnibus bill and all that kind of stuff, and got a bunch of stuff that the established Republicans wanted and a bunch of stuff the Democrats wanted. And the Republicans actually have control of both houses. But if they have control of both houses, why are they not passing stuff? I tell you why, it's simple. Because the Republican Party is not a party. It's divided down the center from these Democrats in the Republican Party and then the conservatives, and they haven't sent shit to Obama that Obama has had to veto. That ought to tell you something. So you need to find out who's voting for what, and get the rest of these old-time establishment politicians, every single one of them, out of the White House. Replace them with conservative libertarians, people who talk about rights, personal rights and freedoms, and all this shit will stop. All right, thank you guys for watching. Cheers. Cheers, for crying out loud.